Baby, sit down and let Auntie May talk to you for a minute, because what I'm about to tell you ain't no fairy tale, and it ain't no joke. It's life. It's love. And it's about the very people we raise with our own hands, the ones we feed from our own kitchens, the ones we sacrifice our whole lives to see stand on their 2 feet. My son, Lord have mercy, walked into that restaurant with his wife on his arm like he had just won the world, chest all out, smile all bright, smelling like confidence and cologne, and I was happy for him. I truly was, because ain't that what we mothers want? Somebody to love our babies, somebody to stand beside them. We sat down, we ordered food, and I was minding my business stirring my tea when I heard him say it. Honey, take Mom Sit's card, there sits $130,000 on it, go treat yourself. The whole restaurant felt quiet to me. I looked at that boy like I didn't recognize him for a moment, not because of what he said, but because of how proudly he said it. Like that money was just sitting there waiting to be played with, like it came easy, like it fell out the sky. But he didn't say no. He didn't know the stories stitched into every dollar. He didn't know the nights I sat at a sewing machine till my fingers bled. He didn't know the meals I skipped so he could eat without knowing I didn't. He didn't know how I walked to work in the rain because fixing the car meant he could go on that school trip. He didn't know about the time I cried in the bathroom because I didn't have enough, but still smiled when he came knocking on the door. He didn't say no because I never told him. I wanted him to grow without feeling the weight I carried. I wanted him to dream bigger than my struggle. He thought that $130,000 was just money. But baby, that was my life savings. My retirement. My safety. My breathing room. My last piece. When his wife picked up that card, smiling like she had struck gold, I reached my hand out slow, gentle but firm. I said, "Sweetheart, put that back." My son looked confused, embarrassed, maybe even a little angry. He said, "Mom, that's fine. You have more than enough." And I said, "No, I have exactly enough." Then I looked him right in his eyes, the same eyes I saw when he was born, and I said, "Son, I love you. I would walk barefoot across fire for you, but I will not let you hand away what took me my entire life to earn, just so somebody else can say they treated themselves. I didn't work for applause. I didn't suffer to be generous. I didn't sacrifice to be careless. You may not know what this money cost me, and that's my fault. I didn't teach you, but I'm teaching you now." That restaurant went silent. His wife looked down at her hands. My son looked at his childhood, all at once. And I saw him come back to himself. Sometimes we think love means giving everything. But love also means keeping what keeps you standing. I leaned back in my chair and I said, "You want to treat your wife? Then baby, you treat her, with your money. With your effort. With your hands. Not with mine. Because raising a man is not just feeding his stomach. It is feeding his understanding. And let me tell you something, baby." He didn't say another word. He paid that bill. He held his wife Sit's hand. And when we stood up to leave, he wrapped his arms around me tight and whispered, I'm sorry, Mama, I understand now." And I whispered back, "That's all I ever wanted. Love your children. Yes. But don't erase yourself to prove it. Because sometimes the greatest love is the lesson. Baby, come sit down right here, because Auntie May gonna talk to you slow, so your spirit can hear it just as clear as your ears do. See, when I say that a mother's sacrifice is often unseen, I don't mean just the big things people talk about on holidays and birthdays. And talking about the tiny everyday pieces of her life, she cuts away and replaces with need, responsibility, and love. I'm talking about the way she chooses her child's comfort over her own. Not once, not twice, but so many times the child grows up thinking comfort was always free. When you're a mother, you do things without applause, without announcement, without someone saying thank you, and half the time, baby, nobody even knows you did it. That woman woke up before the sun, every day slipping her tired bones out of bed like she was made of iron and duty. Some nights she didn't sleep at all. She sat up listening to storms beat against the windows while her child slept warm. She counted pennies at the kitchen table, spreading coins out one by one like hope. She made magic out of lack. She stretched meals. She stretched patience. She stretched her own heart wider than her chest could hold. But the world didn't set clap for her. Her child didn't set no. Because she didn't such let him. She didn't set want him to see her breaking. She didn't want him to feel the weight she carried. She wanted him to walk into the world strong, not scared. She wanted him to believe life could be good, so she hid the dark parts in her own pockets and carried them alone. You know what sacrifice is, baby? It is choosing to make someone else's life softer while yours gets harder. It's when your shoes have holes in the bottom, but your child walks out of the house in brand new sneakers. It's when you go to bed hungry but your child licks his fingers after dinner thinking you already ate. It's when you cry in the shower, water running loud so no one can hear you breaking down. But you wipe your face, step out, and say, "You okay, baby? You need anything?" That son didn't set no. Not because he was ungrateful. Not because he didn't set care. But because she made it look easy. And that sips what mothers do too well sometimes. We hide the struggle so well that our children think there never was one. He thought money was just there. He thought comfort was his birthright. He thought mama always had enough because mama always found enough. But baby, let me tell you something. Mama didn't set always have enough. Mama just went without. He didn't know about the day she sat in her car in a grocery store parking lot, hands trembling trying to decide between paying a bill and buying groceries. He didn't know that when he wanted to go to that school trip, she pawned the only piece of jewelry her mother left her. He didn't know that she kept sewing clothes late into the night because overtime pay was the difference between eviction and rent. He didn't know, because he was never supposed to see her worry. She covered him with joy the way some folks cover windows with curtains, so the storm outside don't show. But sacrifice, baby. Sacrifice writes itself into your bones. It changes your back, your feet, your hands. It deepens your eyes, it slows your walk, it teaches your voice to stay gentle even when your spirit is tired. And one day, when that son stood there, proud and casual, saying, "Take mom's card, there's $130,000 on it," he thought he was doing something kind, something generous, something loving. He didn't know that every dollar on that card had a memory attached to it, a bruise, a prayer, a breath she held in her chest, and hoped would be enough. He didn't know that card wasn't just a card. It was her lifetime. A mother gives everything not to be seen but to see her child shine. But sometimes, baby, sometimes the light blinds them and they forget who lit the match. So the lesson wasn't about money. It was about remembrance. Because one of the greatest heartbreaks in this world is realizing your child grew up happy, but forgot how you made it possible. Baby, lean on in, because Auntie May needs you to feel this, not just hear it. See, when I say that money carries a story, I don't mean the kind of story written in ink or printed on paper. I mean the kind that's stitched into memory, the kind that sits in your bones, in your chest, in the quiet corners of your mind, where your hardest days live. Money ain't just money, not when it took everything in you to earn it. That $130,000 didn't fall from the sky like confetti. It didn't show up with glitter and balloons. It was born out of sweat and aching backs, and mornings she didn't feel like getting up, but did anyway. It came from work. Not clean, soft, comfortable work. Hard work. Work where your feet hurt so bad you talk to them like old friends. Work where your hands get stiff and your shoulders groan. Work where you come home, throw your purse on the table, and sit in silence before you even take your coat off. Every dollar had a story. Every dollar had a memory. And she remembered them all. She remembered when the bank account was so low, she had to choose between the lights and the groceries. She remembered boiling water on the stove because the hot water heater had gone out, and she couldn't afford to fix it yet. She remembered picking up second shifts, third shifts, weekend shifts, holiday shifts, shifts where the world was celebrating, and she was sweeping, carrying, lifting, smiling at customers while her heart was somewhere crying. But she didn't sit complain. She didn't sit ask for pity. She didn't sit even talk about it. Because that's what survival looks like when you're raising a child alone. You don't have time to fall apart. You patch yourself up and keep moving. You swallow pain like pills. You fix your face before you open your front door, so your child sees a home, not a battlefield. So when that money started to grow, slow, steady, barely noticeable at first, it wasn't just savings. It was proof. Proof that she kept going. Proof that she didn't break. Proof that she didn't give up on herself. That account was faith in numbers, strength in digits. It was her life turned into something she could hold. But her son didn't know that. How could he? She protected him from knowing. To him it was just funds. Just a balance. Just available. But baby, money earned from sacrifice is never just available. It's guarded, not out of greed, no ma'am, but out of respect. Because you respect what you worked for. You honor what cost you pieces of yourself. That $130,000 held nights she cried into her pillow so nobody would hear. It held days her legs felt like they wouldn't carry her one more shift, but still did. It held every Lord, just help me get through this day, whispered in the dark. So when that boy told his wife, take mom's card, treat yourself, he wasn't trying to be cruel. He thought he was being giving, thought he was being a man who provides, but baby, you can only give from what you earned, not from what someone else bled for. And the moment she heard those words, she saw her whole life flash through her. Not the joys, those she kept stored gently. It was the labor, the endurance, the cost. See, money itself is cold. But the story behind it is warm, human, deep, emotional. That card wasn't such just a bank account. It was every time she tucked a dream in her pocket so he could chase his. It was every time she told herself she didn't need new clothes, new shoes, new anything because he needed school supplies, or fees, or lunch, or hope. That son didn't hand his wife a credit card. He handed her his mother Sup's life story. And he didn't even know the weight of what he was offering. So she didn't yell. She didn't shame him. She didn't embarrass him. She simply placed her hand gently on that card and took it back. Because baby, you don't let your life get spent like loose change. She wasn't sonnet protecting the money. She was protecting the story. Because some stories took too long to write to let somebody tear the pages out. Baby, come close and listen, because Auntie May gon' speak this softly but firmly, the way truth ought to be spoken. When we say love also means keeping boundaries, some folks get uncomfortable. They think love means giving until you're empty, pouring until you are dry, saying yes even when your spirit is screaming. No, but no baby. Love don't mean losing yourself. Love don't mean letting people walk through you like you ain't got bones. Love don't mean your hands stay open while your heart falls apart. See, that mother in the story loved her son with a love that moved mountains, parted seas, and softened storms. A love that worked double shifts. A love that stood tall when her body said, sit down. A love that didn't break, even when she was tired enough to. But loving someone don't mean letting them take advantage, not even if they don't mean to. It don't mean letting them give away your sacrifices, like party favors. It don't mean letting your hard-earned peace become somebody else's moment of showing off. When that girl reached for that card with a smile, oh, she was shining, like she had just been handed a ticket to gold and silk. The son was proud, thinking he was generous, thinking he was giving his wife joy. But baby, there is a difference between generosity and neglect. There is a difference between giving love and giving away your life. And that mother, she didn't pull back like she was scared. She didn't snatch the card like shame. She placed her hand on it with a softness that held steel underneath, the kind of strength that don't need volume to be heard. Put that back, she said. Not loud. Not angry. Not cruel. just truth. See, boundaries don't need to shout. They stand up on their own. And at that table, she taught a lesson worth more than the money in that account. She taught that love is not unending sacrifice. She taught that taking care of yourself is not selfishness, it is survival. She taught that letting your child grow means letting them be responsible for their own home, their own decisions, their own spouse. You want to treat your wife? Then, baby, you treat her with your work, with your paycheck, with your effort, not with mine. Because raising a child means preparing them to stand, not to lean forever. And listen here, because this is where people misunderstand love. Love is not just hugs and comfort. Love is correction. Love is guidance. Love is I once said, let you do this because I care about who you becoming. A boundary is a fence built out of lessons. It says, I love you, but I love me too. I will support you, but I will not sink for you. I will help you, but I will not erase myself to keep you comfortable. There are mothers who break themselves into crumbs, trying to feed others. But crumbs don't hold nobody up. Crumbs don't build no future. Crumbs don't leave a legacy. If she had let that girl take that card, oh honey, it wouldn't have ended with a shopping trip. It would have opened a door that would have never closed. The expectation that mama will always pay, mama will always provide, mama will always hand over what took her years to create. And baby, once people learn you'll destroy yourself for them, they stop noticing the destruction, not because they're cruel, but because they're comfortable. So that mother drew her line. Not out of anger, not out of pride, out of love for herself, and love for her son. Because she knew, if he didn't learn this now, life was going to teach him later, and life don't teach gentle. The moment she said no, she planted a seed of understanding, a seed of maturity, a seed of responsibility. And that seed, that boundary, that love with a backbone, is what will grow that boy into a man who stands on his own feet. Because baby, love is not only the hand that feeds, it is also the hand that refuses. Not to deny, but to teach, to protect, to preserve. Love is yes, and love is no. Both matter. And the ones who truly love you will learn to understand the difference. Baby, come take a seat right here beside Auntie May, because this part right here, this is where the lesson gets good. When I say a parent's job is to teach responsibility, I don't mean just teaching a child how to tie their shoes, say thank you, or clean up their room. No, baby, I'm talking about teaching them how to stand in this world without falling apart, how to carry their own weight, how to build instead of borrow, how to live in a way that honors where they came from. See, that boy grew up in a home where his mother made miracles look like routine. She made struggle look like normal. She made sacrifice look like ease. So he didn't see it. He didn't understand it. Because when you shield your child from the storm, they grow up thinking sunshine is guaranteed. And that's where the real lesson comes in. A parent's job is not to make life comfortable forever. A parent's job is to prepare a child for life, not protect them from it. To teach them that blessings don't fall into your lap, they're built with your hands. To teach them that love is work, marriage is work, holding a household together is work. And baby, work don't scare you when you've seen it done with dignity. So when that son told his wife to take that card, he thought he was being loving, providing, impressive even. But he was using his mother's strength as his own. He was giving away something he didn't earn. And that right there, that is where mama stepped in. Because love don't mean letting your child walk through life unprepared. She didn't embarrass him. She didn't scold him. She didn't shame him in front of the world. No, baby, she taught him. Quiet, firm, certain. She said, you want to treat your wife? You use your money. You use your work. You use the life you are building, not the life I already built. Because if she allowed him to use her savings to look grand, she would be teaching him that he doesn't need discipline. She would be teaching him that everything he needs, mama will supply. And that is how grown children become dependent. That is how marriages break. That is how resentment grows like weeds in the cracks of a home. A parent must know when to step back. That boy needed to learn how to earn, how to manage, how to budget, how to say we can set afford that right now, how to work for what he wants, not just reach for what's easy. See, responsibility ain't just about paying bills. It's about owning your choices. It's about knowing what you can afford, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. It's about taking care of your family with your own strength, even if it's small at first, because small strength grows, borrowed strength don't. And that girl he married, she needed to learn too, not in a cruel way, but in a way that shapes her into a partner and not a passenger. She needed to learn that marriage is not built on access to someone else's resources. It is built on teamwork, sacrifice, effort. If she wants luxury, baby, she and her husband must build it together. Because wealth built together holds, wealth handed out disappears like mist in sunlight. So Mama wasn't just protecting her money. She was protecting their marriage. Protecting her son Sid's manhood. Protecting the pride he needed to earn, not borrow. Because one day, that son gonzit look back and realize something powerful. My mama didn't just raise me to live, she raised me to stand. She raised him to make decisions without leaning on her back. She raised him to be a provider, not a collector. She raised him to understand that ownership is spiritual. You feel different when what you have came from your own hands. And baby, let me tell you something, that moment in the restaurant wasn't just a correction, it was a graduation, not from school, but into responsibility. Because the world does not need another grown child. The world needs grown men and women, people who know how to build, how to protect, how to contribute, how to honor the sacrifices made before them. A parent's job ain't to carry the child forever. A parent's job is to teach the child how to walk. So when she said no, she wasn't closing a door. She was opening one. To maturity. To understanding. To growth. And baby, that's love too. Baby, come closer. Let Auntie May lean in real gentle now, because this part right here, this is about respect. And not the loud kind. Not the kind folks demand, with raised voices and slammed doors. No baby, I'm talking about the quiet kind. The kind that sits in the heart and guides how you speak, how you move, how you treat the people who carried you before you ever knew how to stand. Respect should go both ways. Parent to child, child to parent. And somewhere along the way, that boy forgot that. Not out of malice. Not out of selfishness. But because love had been so comfortable, so given, so readily available, he didn't even realize it needed to be honored. See, when a mother sacrifices, she rarely explains it. She just does it. She feeds you before she feeds herself. She gives you her warm coat in the winter and stands there shivering. She lets you dream big while she puts her own dreams on the back shelf to gather dust. And because she makes it look easy, you grow up thinking it was easy. But baby, respect is recognizing the weight someone carried, even if you never saw them carry it. So when that boy, full of pride and good intentions, told his wife, "Take Mom's card, treat yourself," he wasn't trying to be disrespectful. But disrespect doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes it shows up quiet, in the way we assume someone else will keep sacrificing for us without even being asked. His mother looked at him, not angry, but disappointed in a way that sits heavy in the bones, because that moment told her something. Her child had forgotten the cost, forgotten the work, forgotten her. And baby, there ain't no pain like being forgotten by someone you carried in your own body, in your arms, in your prayers. But hear this, she didn't lash out, she didn't shame him, she didn't remind everyone in the room of everything she had ever done, because respect goes both ways. She respected him even when he was wrong. She corrected him with dignity. She placed her hand on that card and said, "No, sweetheart, that's not how this works." And in those few words, she wrapped love and lesson together like ribbon and gift, because demanding respect ain't necessary when you embody it. Now let's talk about that young wife for a second. That girl didn't know either. Her eyes saw money, her heart saw excitement, but she didn't see the woman who earned it sitting right in front of her. Respect would have said, "This is your mother sets. Money, I can take that." Respect would have paused, would have asked, would have waited. But that girl reached like the world owed her something. Not because she was wicked, no baby, but because nobody had taught her yet that when you enter someone else's life, you honor the hands that built the foundation you're walking on. Respect is not about titles, not about age, not about authority. Respect is awareness. Awareness of sacrifice. Awareness of history. Awareness of effort. That son needed to remember that his mother was not just mom. She was a woman. A woman who had lived, worked, struggled, endured, survived. For him. And she needed him to see her again. Because respect keeps love balanced. Respect says, "I see what you've done." Respect says, "I don't take you for granted." Respect says, "Your life has value beyond what you give me." When that boy wrapped his arms around his mother at the end and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mama. I understand now." That was not an apology. That was respect returning home. Because sometimes children don't mean to forget. Life just moves fast. Comfort makes things easy. And easy makes us blind. But one moment of truth can bring everything back into focus. So hear Auntie May when she says this gently, love with your whole heart. But don't let love make you invisible. Respect yourself first. Teach others how to treat you. And when they learn, truly learn. Oh baby, that love deepens. Because love may be the foundation. But respect? Respect is the roof that keeps the rain off the house. Baby, come sit a little closer, because this last part right here, this is where the heart speaks. Sometimes the greatest lessons in life don't come from arguments, shouting, or long explanations. They come in silence. They come in that quiet space where a person finally sees themselves. And Lord knows, silence can teach what words can't even reach. When that restaurant went still, when that mother placed her hand gently on that card and said, "No baby, put that back," the world didn't explode. Nobody yelled. Nobody cried. Nobody stormed out. It was quiet. Real quiet. The kind of quiet where truth sits down beside you and looks you dead in your soul. And in that silence, that boy began to think, maybe for the first time in a long time, not thinking with pride, not thinking with comfort, not thinking with the assumption that Mama will always have it covered. No, baby, he was thinking with memory. He remembered things he hadn't thought about in years. The lunchboxes packed when money was thin. The birthday parties that looked magical, even though she had stayed up all night making decorations out of scraps. The times he saw her shoes worn down to the sole, but she still smiled and said, "I'll get new ones later." The way she always told him everything was okay, even when life was anything but. Silence brought those memories back, like an old photo album opening by itself. And that wife, that sweet young woman, she went quiet too. Her smile softened, her hand slipped away from the card, and her eyes opened just a little wider. She realized something too, that she was being welcomed into a family built from struggle, not luxury. And with that knowledge comes responsibility, respect, humility. See baby, when we talk, sometimes people listen only to respond. But in silence, people listen to understand. That mother didn't need to list her sacrifices. She didn't need to say, "Do you know what I've done for you?" She didn't need to prove anything. She had already lived it, and that son saw it. He felt it. Not in his mind, but in his chest. Silence lets truth sit beside a person long enough for them to stop running from it. And in that moment, that boy became a man. Not because he turned a certain age. Not because he got married. Not because he was paying bills. But because maturity arrived. Maturity comes softly. It doesn't kick the door in. It just whispers, "Look at what slips real." He saw his mother as a person, not just a provider. A woman, not just a role. A soul who had lived 1,000 lives so he could live one. When he hugged her, Lord have mercy, that hug said everything words couldn't. "I see you now, Mama. I remember. I understand. I once said forget again. Sometimes, a lesson doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be felt. Because the most powerful changes in people don't happen during speeches, they happen in stillness. That mother didn't just protect her savings that day. She protected her story, her dignity, her identity. And her son learned something that day that will follow him into every room he ever enters, every decision he ever makes, every paycheck he ever earns, every home he ever builds. Love is not proven by giving everything. Love is proven by honoring what was already given. So yes, baby, the greatest lessons don't always come wrapped in lectures. Sometimes they come in a quiet room, a slowed heartbeat, a moment of stillness, where a child finally sees the woman who raised him, and understands, and grows, and loves better because of it.